Welcome to The Beauty of Conflict, a podcast about how to deal with conflict at work, at home, and everywhere else in your life. I'm CrisMarie.
And I'm Susan. We run a company called Thrive, and we specialize in conflict resolution, communication, and building strong, thriving teams and relationships. Conflict shows up in our lives in so many ways. Most people, unfortunately, are not very good at handling conflict. Most people have never been taught the right tools for dealing with conflict. And then it leads to unnecessary friction, arguments, passive-aggressive emails, tears, hurtful comments, stuckness, all kinds of things we don't want. We're on a mission to change all of that.
We've spent the last 20 years teaching our clients how to handle conflict in a whole new way. We're here to show you that conflict doesn't have to be scary and overwhelming. With the right tools, you can turn a moment of conflict into a moment of reinvention. Conflict can pave the way into a beautiful new system at work, a new way of leading your team, a new way of parenting, a new chapter of your marriage where you feel more connected than ever before. Conflict can lead to beautiful things. Today, we have Jane Giesman and Sarah Lucht, who are directors and actors in the town of Portland, Oregon, and are also leaders of a workshop called Act Natural, which is really, and you can tell me where I'm wrong, ladies, but this is a workshop that helps you apply acting tools to help people be more authentic and effective in their relationships, both at work and in their life.
Yep, I would agree with that.
So far,
Excellent.
so good.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the show.
We're so glad to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on. We're excited.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about the two of you, when you started working together, all sorts of little tidbits about yourselves.
All right, will do.
Well, we met because we're both actors here in Portland, and as part of the theater community, our paths certainly crossed, and a friendship developed maybe 25, almost 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, we started spending more time together, and our interests were so similar, and our love of theater and our interest in personal development. We ended up taking workshops up in Canada at the Haven, took various workshops there for self-improvement and professional development. And out of that, we decided we would develop our own workshop process that integrates personal development concepts with actor training techniques, basic fundamentals of acting. The two worlds blend beautifully when exploring communication, expression, creativity, and just flat out presentation skills. And so we've been doing these workshops for 20 years now, actually.
And actually, we've taken your workshops and we love them.
I mean, CrisMarie, I think, initially got engaged in it because she wanted to improve her acting chops.
Absolutely.
And
as a community theater actor.
I really came because I just thought you two were some of the funniest, most fun people to be around. But I stepped into your program because I was in a situation where normally I go and present with CrisMarie, but I was going into a pretty powerful situation where I really wanted to present better. And I remember coming to your workshop, and it had a quite profound effect for me in terms of my own leadership and stepping onto that stage that was very different to go on alone.
Right.
So it was very helpful.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So tell us about, now you two don't have conflict in your relationship, right? Because you're besties. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. And it really is. We can't even be, funny or ironic about that. I was thinking about that absence of conflict in our relationship. And I'm not sure that we can account for it in any real practical way. It was kind of the luck of the draw. And I will say that in terms of working together, I think we've always been really good at using this particular model that comes from the world of theater, where you identify an objective, you then perhaps identify obstacles, and then you employ different tactics. So that's the recipe for an actor meeting a script. And it just happened to be the model that Jane and I used for our workshops and how we approach our workshops. Mm-hmm. So I would say that has gone a long way to prevent conflict, I guess, or not prevent conflict, but if conflict arises, we go to what is our objective in our relationship.
I mean, it sounds like, Sarah, what you're describing from what I'm hearing is actually very similar to what we say is that creative opportunity, that choice point. Because I think what you're saying is the way you approach acting is you have this objective coming in and you are going to meet obstacles, which is generally where there's the potential for conflict, where people will either opt out or opt in the way that we think of it. But and what you're suggesting is that what you've been trained to do in acting and also trained to do in life and is to lean into that, think of those obstacles and stay in touch with your key objective and be willing to kind of engage from that point. And if tell me where I'm wrong, but that potentially creates conflict, but makes for a very interesting scene and the drama becomes real and that's actually a good thing. That's what makes us stay engaged in the play or in life, so to speak.
That's right. Having clarity of objective is key to all of this. And I will say that Sarah and I will have moments where we get into, there's some tension between us, or it's not to say we never, ever have any, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, tension or
something. And we have learned, and I do this the best with Sarah. Of all my relationships in the world, I do this the best with Sarah, where we don't let things fester. We address them as soon as they come up. Wouldn't you say that's true? Yeah. If there's any kind of something going on, we are quick to recognize it and quick to talk about it, set it on the table, look at it, talk about it. And move through it.
And I would say that I attribute to an extreme level of safety. I think the safety is in that we have been very articulate with each other about what we want in our lives. How we want to be in the world, how we want to feel inside of ourselves, how we want to be with other people, and so we talk about that a lot, and we are reminders to each other about that a lot.
I think what you're describing, I want to check in because this is perfect. Because in some respects, it sounds like what you guys do with each other, because you've established such a strong sense of connection and safety and willingness is you share your expectations, what you're wanting, what you're dreaming of, what you're willing,
what you're upset about,
even what you're upset about, as a way of making sure that you don't hold that back in any way, shape, or form.
That's very well put. I would say that that's really good, because I think we're very transparent with each other. Way to go. Way to put it into words. I think both Sarah and I have a low tolerance for anything to come between us. Any unspoken thing, unexpressed resentment.
It would mess up multiple facets of our lives.
Yes.
If there was something major between us.
Yes. So again, we address it ASAP.
And we have very specific practical ways of addressing it. We have models with which you are both familiar from the Haven.
Communication models,
Yes, let's just call it the communication model, exactly. So we that's a part of our DNA now, because of how long we've used that with each other and in our other relationships. And it's very effective for us.
Yeah. How about with, so you two have kind of this longstanding intimacy and commitment to clear things up. How about you're both in long-term relationships are you both married? Do you both?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. How is it at home versus in your working relationship with each other?
Now I don't think we've got time for that.
Oh, look at the time. I've got to run.
We'd hate to bore your listeners.
I think it's just getting good, actually.
I disagree. Well, I will go first and say that I'm married. Ed and I have been together for decades.
Yes.
And I struggle more with him in terms of the very things I'm celebrating with Sarah. And I find so much easier to do with her is less easy with Ed. He's a different personality from me, very different. We have different backgrounds. We have different ways of communicating with each other. So it's much more challenging. And also, he's a man and I'm a woman. So there may be that the difference of gender could also feed into this and his male process versus my very female process. So, yeah, good question, you guys. Let's move along.
Well, before we go on, I mean, is there a particular area that you get stuck in, like a particular topic, or do you find yourself repeating, like, oh, there we go again? Where is kind of the bump that you usually run into with Ed, if you're willing?
I would say a bump that's emerged in the last couple and a half years is Ed's daughter had a baby a couple years ago. So it's our first and so far only grandchild. And so I'm a step grandparent to this darling little child. And little Fiora, the granddaughter, is special needs and has a lot of challenges ahead for her. And we're quite involved in her life. And we come up against ourselves and each other in that the mother isn't my daughter. It's Ed's daughter. And I have ideas and things I want to suggest or comment on. And I have to be careful that I don't tread on Ed's shoes because it's his daughter. And I don't want to say something that he would perceive as criticism of him as a dad or his daughter. And yet I want to speak what I think needs to be said about this child and, things we can do for her to help her. Is that making any sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can tell I'm being very delicate here. And so this new project for us as we are approaching our 70th birthdays is challenging, is not only being grandparents, but for me, being a step grandparent and negotiating my way in that family, that part of our family.
Well, and I would imagine, Jane, that this is, again, one of those situations where I go to even what you guys were talking about earlier. If you can stay clear about your objective, which it sounds like is to support this process of being a grandparent, and remember that you're going to hit the obstacles. So, I mean, I would imagine even with Ed being able to fill him in on, wait a minute, this is what's coming up for me. And, I know it could appear that I'm just being difficult, but I wonder if you let him know, sometimes I walk on eggshells because I really don't want you. Do you talk to him about that?
Absolutely. Let him know. Yeah. I think we've done pretty well at letting each other know what's going on in this situation. And you're right. One of my primary objectives, you guys, in my life, and this is a really important one to me, is to be honest and in integrity with myself, meaning I don't hold on to stuff and keep it inside of me and behave in a way that doesn't reveal what's really going on. I want the people that I love and care about and I'm closest to know what's going on for me. I don't want to hide. And it takes guts, as we all know, to come forward sometimes.
It does. It
does.
Yeah.
And so I need to remind myself what is my objective? Is it, to manage Sarah or Ed's feelings, or is it to, be mindful of their feelings, but be in integrity or congruent with myself and therefore honest?
Oh, Jane, I so love what you're saying. And I think that is so hard for many people to do because we're so worried about hurting other people's feelings.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the ability to tolerate, hey, this is what's coming up for me, and tolerate this person that you love and care about actually being upset with me right now, because what I said, that has been a huge developmental growth spurt for me to tolerate their upsetness and still hold on to me and what's important. So
that will be a challenge to the day I die, I think, is doing just that.
This is why my husband and I have cats.
And not children.
And not children, let alone grandchildren.
Well,
Not to derail.
No, Sarah, do you have issues? Is there a common bump that you two run into in your relationship, with your husband?
Well, it's interesting because my husband, unlike Ed, Don, my husband, is also in the theater. He's an actor and a director, not full time. He has a day job, which he dislikes, and doesn't work, I think, as much in the theater as I do at the moment. And so we have whereas we have an extremely close, kind, respectful, lovely relationship in all regards, we tend to have conflict around my involvement with the theater and his hurt feelings sometimes about getting jobs or not getting jobs. So there's I almost want to call it competition, but that doesn't feel quite right.
Well, it sounds like professional jealousy, and which makes perfect sense to see you engage in a play. And it's like, wait a minute, why wasn't there a part for me? Or why am I not getting picked? Or I can relate to those situations, not with Susan, but with other actors.
Right. I know you can, CrisMarie. So what is interesting for me is that I will definitely attempt to protect Dawn, and that amounts to withholding parts of myself. In other words, I might come home from a rehearsal and simply not talk about it because I think I will, quote unquote, hurt his feelings or upset him, or so that's a place where we I would say have conflict.
Have you ever asked him, had that conversation pretty frankly, I want to let you know I'm doing this because I think you don't want to hear about this because you are in a place of pain, but it also is, you're missing a part of my aliveness and my juice. So I want to check out. Have you had that conversation with him?
Yes. And as you're saying that, I think it's been a while since we've had it. So I think that's an interesting point right there is yes, I've had that conversation with him, and there's no need to ever have it again. I've done that. We've said all that, and chapter closed on that. And so that brings up the idea of revisiting issues and updating and rechecking in.
I mean, I know that this comes up, has come up at times with CrisMarie and I, like when she's engaged in something, and it does happen to be community theater is one of those things. And she is totally involved. And I have been replaced basically in terms of who she's paying attention to or not. But the part that drives me the most nuts is when she doesn't let me be in my fullness of being jealous because, or she takes.
If I'm trying to do exactly what you're doing, Sarah, when I try to cover it up or downplay her, it's no big deal. And of course I'm obsessed by it and I really like it. She doesn't actually, or if I don't let her, if I can tolerate her being upset, right now I am pissed that you're going off to another rehearsal and we don't get to do whatever, go to a movie.
But what's interesting for me is when she gives me the opportunity to just say that, what I always come back to is the reason that I may feel that jealousy is sometimes because I need to do something to take care of myself. Now, it may be I can't go get a
part in the play
or whatever. But it's like, what do I need to do to have myself feel good? And it shouldn't be you that has, that's one of those things. We think we have to make our partner feel good about themselves. But,
that's actually patronizing to them when you're not holding them as able and even supporting them, kind of feeling their discomfort enough so that they actually want to do something that would be passionate for them, whether it's taking a writing class, a playwriting, a screenwriting, or a directing class, something that he could do that would juice him up.
Yes, or get involved in the garden outside and do some work around the house.
There you go. Try that one, Sarah.
Give him his honey-do list.
Shall I let you know how that goes? Yeah. I wanted to say this is making me think of one of my favorite relationship concepts, which is actually from F. Scott Peck's The Road Less Traveled, which I think is maybe the first kind of self-help book that I read in maybe 1982 or something.
Great book.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. And I remember there's something in the book about how he talks about his role in his marriage and what his job is, and that a lot of his patients would talk about, I think my wife's job is this, I think my husband's job is that. And he says in the book, well, my job in this marriage is to help Lily, his wife, help Lily be Lily.
Yeah.
Which I've always really liked. So in other words, it's not going to help Susan to be Susan to say, go get a part in a play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Or to say to Dawn, why don't you do some work in the garden? Because that's not Dawn.
No.
But we can talk about, exactly what you're saying. What other things are there that might improve your well-being and engagement and satisfaction in life here?
Well, and also, Sarah, for Sarah to be Sarah, to actually come home, if you were jazzed, you know how it is when you come back from a rehearsal. You've got all that energy. I just know it. And for you not to actually share that, you're not giving him your full radiance. Right. That is pretty sexy, I might say.
Yeah. I've learned to quite enjoy the sexy side of CrisMarie that comes home from the theater, but it's, even if I am jealous sometimes,
Well, Dawn always seems to have a really good book going.
Right.
No, I'm making it sound a little bleaker than it really is.
I think this is a really common dynamic, Sarah, that comes up. So we're just kind of using it.
It's a unique, I think what really strikes me about what you're describing is you are both in somewhat the same field. So I can imagine when, there could be a way for him that it's even harder if you're really in this place of being jazzed, alive, getting parts, getting opportunities, and he may see himself as not getting that. That is a bit different. And, so it is. That does create a challenge. And I think, what we often say is the more you can actually have a conversation about it. And I think you guys are familiar with this tool, even a 5-5-5 can be a way to kind of talk about where you each are.
Which I just want to just describe.
Do the 5-5-5. Yeah. I don't think I know that.
So this is something we teach in our couples workshops, Couples Alive and Couples Mojo. Is a 5-5-5 is when you have a topic and a hot topic is the first, sometimes couples don't want to talk about it because one person thinks, oh my God, it'll never end. Yeah. And another person thinks, well, I want to have enough time. You always cut me off. And so the 5-5-5 is 5 minutes. The first person talks uninterrupted about the topic. And they don't have to talk nonstop. The other person just is not going to interrupt them. And so at the end of the 5 minutes, you honor the timer. You actually use a timer. And then the second person talks for 5 minutes on that topic. And then the third 5 minutes, then you dialogue. And what this often does is give a chance to digest the content in a lot of different ways. And if you have an ongoing topic, sometimes we encourage couples, let's say they're having a hard time about money or even this acting piece, to do it on a daily basis for like a week. And you get a lot of mileage through that issue. So that's a real connecting.
That's really great.
I like that a lot. Yeah. We like models. We like practical time boundary models a lot.
I'm writing this down.
Yeah, I realize you two, you can always come to our Couples Alive program and we'll teach you some of these models.
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Could Jane and I come and just leave our husbands?
I knew that was coming. I saw that
coming. Because now that I think about it, I do have some difficulties with her.
Oh, you do not. You do not.
I want to say about the thing with Dawn. One thing is that we also have been together a very long time, almost 30 years, and in the theater all that time. Yeah. So we certainly have had the gift of continuity with this particular issue. So when it does come up, we get to remind each other that, this has come up before, right? Isn't it interesting? It's a theme in our lives as individuals and our relationship, and so I used to find it tedious. I think we both did. Oh no, you're not upset about that again, are you? And now I think after all these years, there's a sense of, wow, we should get this sorted out. I wonder if we can or ever will. So it can be a place of connection and like humor for us
Right.
as well.
I love that.
That we have, we have a couple things that have occurred over the years since we very first met, and one of them
Our 20 years.
we just have named it the Linda incident. And so whenever it comes up, we don't even remember the details of the Linda incident, but we know when we're in it, some version of it. And we'll just go, this is the Linda incident.
Right.
That is great.
We kind of know what we need to do to take care of ourselves. And it usually is some type of,
jealousy,
something like that has come up, and we need to address it and talk about it. So, I appreciate that piece that you're sharing, because it does sound like, you guys, 30 years, that's a long time.
Yes.
So clearly you have a lot of familiarity, and we do revisit things. That's actually not a bad thing. When you said, hopefully we'll get over this, it's like, nah, maybe, but it also reminds you, it's sort of a reminder to bring the juice back up again.
And I think that's really the benefit of talking about it, revisiting it, and I get you have over and over at times, but it at least gives both of your voices out on the table. And if he is hurt and upset, for you to witness that and be okay with that.
Yeah.
And because I think that's him bringing himself forward.
Yeah.
And also, I think, that makes me think as well about this tolerance that one, I think, has to have just as a human being for discomfort.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To put it mildly, just to be able to tolerate uncomfortable feeling in your body, and have an agreement that that's something that you're up to as a human being, which I think Jane and I talk about that quite a bit. In our personal relationship. Yeah.
Because that would be a huge part, at least my memory of working with you two, which was how much you said, like being real and acknowledging the emotional tone.
Well, I remember, Jane, this is from Nurse Ratched, when you played Nurse Ratched, and the director said, you need to find that place where you just love pain or hurting people,
relishing. Yeah.
Relishing. Yeah.
That you inflict. Yeah.
But that's like owning, I remember you saying, owning all these places inside of ourselves, which is that tolerating my jealousy, my rage, my hate, my envy, those not popular emotions in myself, and also witnessing another human being and not trying to fix it or make it go away.
Right. Yeah. Which is what we get to practice as, just to go off topic just a little bit, as actors all the time.
Yeah.
That's what the job demands. And it's part of why I believe Jane and I are so good at facilitating people having feelings, holding a space for people's feelings, because that's what we do in our work. We have to be vulnerable in order to serve this script. That's the job.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just think holding that, even tolerating your own discomfort in relationship when it's something that really is impacting you, Dawn, you love and care about, Ed, you love and care about, and being able to tolerate and not go to fixing. It is a life lesson, but I think you have the skills through acting to really apply that quite powerfully in your relationships.
Yeah. And I know for one, I think, Sarah, you're very similar to me, and maybe you two are over there, wherever you are. Montana. I feel in my body, I feel different and not very good if I am holding back something from Ed or Sarah, something, important, or from anybody, but really the ones closest to me. If I am sitting on holding back because I don't want to hurt them, or I don't want to create a conflict, or whatever story I'm telling myself, my energy feels different. I feel somewhat, depressed, or edgy. It's like my body tells me very clearly, you need to clear something out of you. You're not saying something that needs to be said. And it's very hard. The older I get, the less easy it is to ignore that.
I love that, Jane, that your body is acting as a compass, kind of a
It
lie
is.
detector to
Yeah.
say, hey, something's got to come out. And I think that happens for most of us, but we've deadened our awareness of it.
Mhm.
And I love that you have that even as you progress in your life, that it's getting louder and louder. Like you cannot ignore that.
Right. That's right, CrisMarie. And maybe one thing I'm just sitting here thinking that keeps that alarm system, barometer, or whatever alive in me is that by virtue of being actors, we have to stay connected to our bodies, ourselves, so that we can call upon different aspects of us and our feelings and so on to tell the story we have been hired to tell. So to ignore my body or disconnect from it, it does a disservice not only in my personal relationships, but certainly in the work I do.
Yeah, that is so powerful.
That is, very powerful. And I mean, it is amazing. What I love is that you really get it because of what you're hired to do as an actor, but you also see the same thing apply in your relationships, in your most important relationships, because, so many times people ignore that because they're afraid of the pain that something may end.
Yeah.
But if you can wait a minute, if I don't do this, it may not end, but I'm already dead in it anyway.
Exactly.
And that's, so that's a big cost to pay. So,
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, well, this has been.
Oh, you're delightful. We could just keep talking on and on because you're just two of our favorite peeps.
Oh, you.
Aww.
Same here, you guys.
We just love you both.
What a treat.
I'm telling
Yes.
you.
Okay,
I love what you guys have created together in your relationship and how it's making the world a better place. Flat out, it is. And,
Thank you.
Talk about influence. I mean, you are both definitely influencers.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I can't wait to see you in our next workshop so I can be the boss of you.
You will be.
You will be.
Well, wasn't that fun?
That was just a blast. I love talking with them. They are such a delight and so much fun. And that they were willing to talk both about their own relationship and also be willing to kind of reflect and share with us what it's like in their couple, their coupledom. And
they brought up, such good points. And I think so many people in relationship hold back because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings who they care about. And that Jane really spoke to how her body just is like, I'm not going to let you do that, which is a gift. It's a real gift because if you don't speak up, you start to die in that relationship.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's really important to notice that, pay attention to it, and find a way to bring your voice forward. And I thought one of the key tools from today's call that we spoke to in this was what we refer to as the 555. And you could take any topic that you need to talk about and do a 555 on it.
Yeah. And I would really encourage you to use a timer. 5 minutes, one person, the other person tries not to even react. And then the other person for the second 5 minutes. And then the third 5 minutes is a dialogue. And at the end, don't just keep talking about it. Actually get up, do something different, especially if you're a couple, because you're in for a marathon, not a sprint. So we encourage you to actually switch gears, do something. And if you need to come back, you can do another 555 another day.
And we have used that both with couples, and we have also used it in business setting with team members that are in conflict with each other, because it's a great way for each person to be able to get their ideas out when there are strong differences. So,
and we talk about this in our upcoming book, The Beauty of Conflict for Couples. It's outlined in that and it's available for pre-order now. And we also teach it in Couples Alive. And if you're interested in Jane and Sarah's program, that's up at the Haven called Act Natural, and it's really fun.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today and hope to hear from you. And if you want to be on our show because you have something to say about conflict or would like to share with us, reach out.
We'd love to have you.
Well, thank you for listening to the Beauty of Conflict podcast. If you're dealing with a difficult situation in your life or work, remember, every conflict is a chance for you to be vulnerable and curious and find creative solutions that you hadn't considered before and make your situation even better. Beautiful breakthroughs can be born out of conflict. We've seen this happen thousands of times over the last 20 years, and we know this is possible for everyone, including you. We're grateful you listened to this show, and we're rooting for you.
And if you enjoyed this show, please tell a few friends and/or post a 5-star review on iTunes. Your review helps new listeners discover this show. More people listening to this show means less friction and arguing and suffering out in the world, so that's a great thing for everyone. Also, visit our website, thriveinc.com. That's THRIVEINC.com to read our articles, join our newsletter, buy our books, and learn more about the services that we offer. Thanks again for listening. We hope you have a peaceful, productive, and beautiful day.